Take us back to the beginning and tell us where you were born and where you grew up.
Um, I was born in China, Canton, China, southern China, in 1948, just after the war. And since I was a baby of that era in China, uh, it was a very difficult time. And my parents had me when they were very old, I mean, late in life, because my father came to make his fortune. He went the way of Cuba, and then he came to Massachusetts. And my mom was still in China. Usually, the husband goes abroad and then leaves the family behind. And so my mom was there, and this was just this is like after World War II, people fled to Hong Kong. So I was 3 years old when we went to Hong Kong. And in Hong Kong, um, my mom was there and we lived together, but she was called to come to America. And in 1952, she came. I was 4 years old. So, she left me behind with her good friend, um, and so she took care of me. And of course, it was, very difficult because you're 4 years old. But it had to be because, sorry, it's kind of hard to talk about this. Uh, when you're a baby, when you're a woman, you're not worth much. So my father sold my birth papers because it was worth some money. And so, because of that, I didn't have identity. And so I couldn't come with my mom. And so my mom had to leave me. And I knew she was leaving, but I didn't want to give her a lot of trouble. So I was very sad, but I took her to the airport with a lot of other people. And then she went. And I had no idea when she was going to see me next. But the lady she left me with was very nice to me. She was okay. And I remember she used to always say, okay, I was like 3 or 4, strip down to your waist because I want to show your mom pictures. And I never knew why she wanted to do it that way, but I realized later she wanted to show my mom that I was eating okay and I was okay. So when my mom left, in those days we don't talk on the phone or anything, she just left. So I didn't know when I was going to see her. I was so sad that nobody could talk about my mom because I would cry. So anyway, I lived with this lady, and then, um, she was a young widow, and like all people in Hong Kong, they want to do better. So when an older gentleman came to Hong Kong, she took the opportunity to go with him. He was searching for a wife. So she took the opportunity to go with him. And so I somehow, found out. And later on, I went to see her mother-in-law, and I remember going to this dark room, and she was in a bed by herself. And then she shouted at me and said, "Are you leaving me too?" So everybody's leaving me. So I started crying. I didn't know what she meant. But anyway, after my friend left, my mom had to scramble. My parents had to scramble and find someone else to take care of me. So they took, they found this family of 6 kids. I was the oldest. I think at that point I was about maybe 7. And I was probably the same age as the other girl. And this family was very different. I was like their little maid, you know. I had to do a lot of the laundry and whatever. And they didn't really care for me because they had 6 children, and they probably just wanted to take me because they knew my parents would send money. So they took the money. And being from that, even though the husband was very nice, I remember when I first met him, he took my necklace away, my little jade necklace my mom gave me. He says, I don't want you to lose it, so I'm going to keep that safe for you. And then when you go to America, when you join your mother, I will give it back to you. And so I said, okay. And then I lived with them, and the mother she was a terrible woman. And if you thought she was terrible, her mom, who used to visit, was horrible. I mean, there are some of these people, in the Chinese people, they say your face turns ashen when you get mad. She was one of those people. She was a terrible person, and we used to dread her coming. But other than that, I was kind of left alone. You know, I said when they needed me to do things for them, I would roam the streets, and it's amazing nothing happened to me because I would just go everywhere in the neighborhood. And Hong Kong, you know, is a very populated place. So I would just go, and in my little imagination, I was going to school at that time, I would tell people that, you know, my parents live in America and they're very wealthy, and they're going to come for me and all this stuff. And the bus driver would say, oh, so tell me what it's like in America. And I would make up all these tall tales. But, you know, I just wanted to be maybe self-important. Anyways, so I lived with them for about 3 years. And I was hungry a lot of times. And I slept on a hard plywood near the door. And I could feel the rats come running up and down. As a kid, that's how, you know, it's kind of normal. And you don't think, oh, wow, yuck, you know. But that was how I lived for a few years with them. And it was not of course it wasn't a happy childhood. So anyway, I lived with these people, and then the mother-in-law lived with us. You know, in Chinese family, they all live together. She was a horrible person. So they would play games like this. They would use me, you know, a 6, 7-year-old kid, and go and spy on the other person and then report back to them. So I was doing this for them. And then, I mean, I didn't know, you know, you're not supposed to do that, but I did. So they were horrible people. And the only person nice was the father, but he was never around. He had to work. And then shortly after that, I had an uncle who used to come. He came into the scene, and he was taking me to immigrations. And I didn't know why, but I had to go to immigration. They would ask me questions. Well, you know, apparently what happened was this. I didn't really know the full story, but my mom, who had come to America, she was going crazy because she left me, and she was having hallucinations. So somehow they had to get me to America, but I didn't have my papers. So what they decided was to concoct a story that I was the orphan child. I had lost my parents in a junk, you know, those ships, the boat. Somehow it sank, and I was the only survivor. I don't know how this story came about, but that was the story. So they would interview me, and I would go there, and they would ask about this. So every time they asked me about my mom, I would start crying. And they couldn't go anywhere with me. So I remember the lady said to the other people, oh, don't ask her anymore. And they just gave me some candy to entertain me. So I didn't really have to answer too many questions. But shortly after that, you know, I remember before that, they took me to a fortune teller. And the fortune teller was telling me that I was going to go to America, because I was praying all that time. I said, oh, let me go to America, let me go to America. And the fortune teller, I mean, you can't believe them, but she said, you're going to America. So I was going to America. And the husband of this lady that, I mean, this people I was living with, he was true to his word. He gave me back my a necklace, and he said, here it is. But the mother-in-law was so cruel. She said, you know what? I hope your plane crashes when you go to America. When I came to America, I told my mom that, and she confronted her, but she denied it. So anyway, I was so happy. I'm going to America, and that was I was very happy. I had met this man who was going to accompany me. He was Mr. Wong, and he was a middle-aged man. He was there to get married, and so he married this beautiful woman. She was about 18, and they bought me my suitcase, and I had 2 outfits, I think, to my name, and 1 shoe. I remember 1 pair of shoes. And we finally arrived in Boston, Logan International Airport, and my brother was there. My brother's 17 years older than me because they had me, after the war. My brother was born already, and he was he was 27 at the time. 25. He's 17 years older, and I was 8 years old. And so I remember my mom, my father was there, and a young girl who was 15 named Betty. To this day, we're friends. She lives in Honolulu now. And they were there to pick me up. And I knew they had a restaurant. So we went to the restaurant, but it was nighttime. And we went to this restaurant. It was nothing what I imagined. It was just like 2 tables. And it was so dark, and I kept asking my mom, where are all the customers? She says, don't say that, because that's bad luck. If you say that in Chinese, you're asking where the customers are. You're not supposed to say something like that. So I just had no clue. And then the next day, I remember, she said, go and watch the moving pictures. I said, what do you mean? And then she turned on the TV for me, and it's moving pictures, and it was like a miracle. My God, I've never seen this. So I was so happy to be in America, to be with my mom. And even though, when I look back, that place was so dinky. I know that it was a very small restaurant. We would make maybe $50, and the waitress was still 10. So it was very beginning. Then my parents bought this other restaurant around the corner on Brightman Street. This was on Main Street. And then we moved there, and then life became better materially. However, it was not a happy childhood because, when you're a girl in that era, you're nobody, really. And my father treated me like nobody. And that was the first time I ever met him. I never saw him. He was like a stranger to me. And my parents did not have a good marriage. In fact, they hated each other. And that hatred, he sort of hated me because he didn't get along well with my mom. So there was always this terrible, terrible inharmony between them. And my only salvation as I was growing up, and I learned very fast because I was the only Chinese in the school of all Americans, so I had no choice but to learn English really fast. My only salvation was school. I loved school because to be home and in that environment was not pleasant. And then my brother got married. He went to Hong Kong and got married to a young woman. After my brother got married, and she came from a large family, 7 children. And she was, I think, 19, and she was 10 years older than me. From the moment she came, she demanded the business. She wanted the restaurant because the restaurant was doing well now because we had moved. And in those days, you know, Fall River, I mean, it probably still is 90% Catholic. So we did really well on Fridays when they didn't eat meat. They had to come to the restaurant to eat their chow mein sandwiches. So she demanded that restaurant, the business. And because my mom and my father never got along, it's like this, like Lincoln said, a house divided cannot stand. So she demanded the restaurant, and she got it. And my mom was very sad because that was the end of me. You know, I was going to get nothing. And what can I do? I'm 10 years old, you know. You're at their mercy. And so, and I think my father caved in. Well, first of all, he was a very weak man. And my mom did not have a mind of her own either. So when she demanded the business, and the reason why my father relinquished it so easily is because in the Chinese culture, your oldest son is supposed to take care of you. And that's what he thought. They would look after him. And then they had 3 children. I was like not really wanted, okay? The only person who loved me was my mom. Everybody else wished I wasn't even there. And definitely my sister-in-law. She looked at me as just a threat to what she can get. And my brother had such a weak spine. He just listened to whatever she says. Instead of being the protective brother he should have been, he just treated me terrible. I was always under his thumb. Whenever I did anything wrong, he would say, I'm going to tell your teacher. I was teacher's pet. I did so well in school, but that was what he said. And I went to my mom and I said, Mom, you know, this is my brother. He's always saying this to me. Why don't you say something to him? My mom said, he's only doing what's good for you. But I knew that was a pack of lies. Right then and there, I decided, I'm getting out of here. The minute I can, I'm getting out. Because my father thought nothing of me, even though I did so well in school, and I was really good. He said to me one time, he says, you know, even if you do very well and you become famous, I'll never think anything of you. I know, it's, you can't imagine a parent saying that to you, but it happened. And so whenever he felt I didn't do right, and believe me, I didn't try to hurt anybody. He would get his friends over and judge and jury. He would tell them in front of them, look what she is, this and blah, blah, blah. And then he put them in an awkward spot, you know. And they knew, they felt sorry for me, but they had to be friends with him too. So when I told them, when I became of college age, I got accepted into almost all the schools because I was such a great student. He was very angry. I wanted to go to UCLA. And so he said, he brought these friends over again. He said, look at her. The best schools are here, but she wants to go away to California. And I don't know why she wants to do that. Her family's here. And I said to him in front of everybody, I said, it's because my family's here. That's why I'm going, you know. So that was it. That was goodbye and good riddance. And the minute I came to California, I felt very sad because my mom pleaded with me not to come. I was her only comfort, her only friend in a marriage that was horrible, in a family that did not love her. But I know to survive, I had to do it. And she asked me, aren't you going to be lonely? And I said, yeah, I will be. But I knew this was the only way out. So I came out to California. And she told me at that time, I mean, first I want to go to Hawaii, but she wouldn't hear of it. So California was okay because my cousin was here at UCLA. And she told me, okay, you're going to California. I want you to go to all the Chinese functions and meet a Chinese boy. Don't shame the family. That was a big thing. My God. If you marry outside of your family, you are shame. You bring shame. And all the time they would drill this into me, like, don't go with the white devils, they're no good people, and this and that. And same thing with the blacks. And I always thought, how stupid. I'm going with all my Americans, all my friends are American. Where am I going to find a Chinese person? There was only one Chinese girl besides me. And I knew that was such a stupid concept. I said, this is stupid. We're all humans. Why should you think that way? And I never for a moment believe in that brainwash. So anyway, she told me, when you go out, you must go to all the functions and go and meet a nice Chinese boy. Do not bring shame to the family. Well, I'll tell you, one of my first dances, my second year, I meet my husband at a Chinese dance. I did what she told me to do, but I met the wrong person. And then I tried to tell my father, because I thought, I should tell him that I'm getting married to him. I didn't know how to say Sri Lanka. At that time, it was Ceylon. I didn't know the Chinese word for Ceylon, so I said India. So I said, I'm going to marry somebody who's from India. He said to me, why do you want to marry somebody from a third world country? And anyway, so he disowned me completely, which was nothing new for me. And my mom, of course, a mom is a mom. She came and, she was at the wedding. But I'll tell you, that's why I tell my kids, you guys are so lucky. I had so many obstacles. I had to first come here and then, overcome my family. And then I had to somehow get married to Bala. And both sides were not happy. His mom was very upset, and he was the oldest, so he had to go back, get the sister married, get everybody settled. And so by the time we got married, by the time we met and we got married, it was 7 years had elapsed. I had to finish school. I met him when I was a sophomore. I had to finish school. He had to go back, and then he came back. So it was not easy at all. Really, up to that point, my life was not easy. But I always treasure when I met people like you guys. My only hope was a happy family. That was what I prayed for as a child. Growing up in Massachusetts, I couldn't wait to get away. I encountered prejudices in Fall River, and I was a tough little kid because one time a little kid tried to be funny with me, and I started hitting him over the umbrella. I was about 8 years old, I just came. And he was known as the toughie in the neighborhood, so when people found out I beat him, I was like, boy, I had some respect. And same thing, they used to come to the restaurant, and they would make fun of us and call us all kinds of names. And I just went up to them and I said, get the hell out. And my parents were shocked. They said, they could come and kill you. I said, that's fine, because I'd rather live with dignity than to be humiliated like that. I could not take it. And so I wanted to get out of Fall River with the greatest desire. And it was really funny because about 10 years ago, there's a restaurant, Eagle, that had a, sort of anniversary celebration. And I was going back because this woman who's associated with the restaurant asked me to go back. And I said, okay. But I didn't want to take Bala back because knowing how racist those people were, to my shock, people have changed. They welcomed Bala with open arms. They treated him so nice. So now I go back to Fall River, and I think of Fall River with rose-tinted glasses because it was so different from my time. I couldn't wait to get out. They were so provincial. And I think my best decision was to come to California. And I'm so grateful. I had the courage to break away from my family and to not to listen to them and to just get away and be my own person. And so, you know, when I look at my life now, I do lead a charmed life. You know, I mean, I got my MBA. I worked for Getty Oil Company, and I had my son when I was 33. I was an entrepreneur. I was at the swap meet, and I'm grateful I had it because it gave Sashi an opportunity to deal with the public. She was only 7, and my son was 12. He was the little manager in one of the computer store, and he eventually started working for Google because of his knowledge of computers and everything. And now, what I've been doing, besides raising my kids and seeing them off, and I'm so proud of my kids. I don't think they really had anything to do with their success, both of them. I'm very proud. My son, he's the sweetest boy. I mean, I can't imagine having 2 great kids like this. But it was like a gift from God. If God had given me a book of all the kids that were going to be born and asked me to choose a boy and a girl, I couldn't have done better. Really, I couldn't have. I'm so grateful because for whatever reason, Bala and I think about this all the time. You know, we think of karma, of your past life, of what you have to do. For whatever reason, I had to go through so much stuff in order to be where I am. So maybe it's okay, because what I am today, I became because of all my past. And believe me, I so appreciate the moments I have. Nobody can appreciate my home more than me, my retirement more than me, because I know what it could be. And I'm so grateful that I'm out of it and that I have such a terrific life.
Going through what you went through as a girl, what did you want to teach your daughter about what she could do with her life?
Well, I always told Sashi, don't depend on a man. You make your own money, okay? You do it your way, and you will attract the necessary people in your life. You see, a lot of girls I see is so stupid. They're waiting for Prince Charming. Maybe I was too. I used to daydream, but I knew better. You know, you can only attract what you are. If you want to attract people of that caliber, then be it yourself. As Sashi said it best, one of her investors says, be interesting and interested. You have to be interesting. You have to have something you can bring to the table, okay? And then you have to have somewhat of an exciting life. And what I don't mean to be like glamorous, but you have to be interested in things, and then people want to be part of that world. You know, if you are interesting and you're a high caliber person, you will attract someone who will see the value in you. But I see a lot of girls, they think they have to have love. They have to have a man. No. No human being can fulfill in a void. You have to be self-sufficient as a person before you take on marriage. Like my son told his future wife, who was now his wife, you don't understand. I am self-sufficient. I'm happy as a person. I choose to spend my life with you. You ladies out there, men too, don't be looking for your Prince Charming. You create the world that is exciting for you, and you be self-sufficient. Then you will attract the right person.
So what advice would you give to a young woman who wants to follow her passions?
You only have one shot, really. You got to do it when you're young, when you're able to, when you have the passion. You will regret it later if you don't follow it. And I mean, if you really feel, like Sashi says, if you have a burning desire, don't let people stop you. If you can't, go for it, because you will never be happy with yourself. I didn't do what I wanted to do. You will always regret. So just go for it. I know that sometimes it's very difficult because you got bills to pay. You've got maybe children. And I don't know what the answer is. But I can only say that to my daughter. I would never want to stop them. Whatever they want to do, they should do it with my help. You know, I don't quite relate to some of the new younger women because they're so much more ambitious than I am. But I don't think you should ever stop somebody from doing what they really want, because you don't, to have a life of regrets is the most horrible thing. So I think you should just go to where your heart tells you to do. That doesn't mean you neglect your family, no. But, you know, hopefully you have made the right decision and you have a supportive family. That's my advice. Just go for it.